Um, there's a verse here from the Gita I thought we'd look at. Ashradhadhana Purusha Dharmasya Parantapa. Parantapa means scorcher of others, burner of others. It's like a term for a warrior. Scorcher of foes. It's not. It sometimes gets rendered as that. So, tapa means to heat, and so in this case, parantapa, you're burning somebody else. It means I don't know what the equivalent would be in slang. It's like, like you smoke somebody or something like that. Something like that. You want this smoke, something like that. Or you got burned, something like that, He burned you badly, something like that. He cooked your goose. There's like a bunch of sayings like that use the imagery of fire to communicate victory. Ashradhadhana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa. For those people who don't have any faith in this Dharma. For those people who don't have any faith in this Dharma. The Dharma is what Krishna's been talking about. So for those who don't have any faith in this Dharma, the last verse said, what was it? Raja Vijay Raja Guyam Pavicham Param Pavicham Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam. This is Dharma, Susukam Kartum Avya. It's an inexhaustible, easy to perform Dharma. It's joyously performed. It's directly perceivable. It's directly ascertainable. So Krishna's talking about this Dharma. That's the Dharma of kings. That's the greatest secret. The king of secrets. Knowledge of kings. The purest, the supreme. This is the wisdom he's going to share. And he says that's the good thing. He says if you do this, great things are going to happen to you. But if you don't have faith in this Dharma, then aprapya mam, you won't achieve me. Nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. And you'll come back to the path of death, meaning like rebirth. Mrityu samsara vartmani. Nivartante, you'll come back to the path of death, to the cycle of birth and death. Mam aprapya, having not achieved me, because you're ashradhadhana purusha adharmasyasya. You're the person who doesn't have faith in this Dharma. So those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. That's the verse. Again, Shraddha is the Sanskrit word for faith. It's usually broken down into two words, Shrad and Dha. Dha means to place. And so you place your Shrad. Shrad means trust. Place your trust. Shraddha. Shraddha. Faith. There's also Shrad. Shrad is the funeral service you perform. Shraddha, that long A attached to it, changes the meaning of the word completely, and now the word means faith. And interestingly, when you look at old etymologies, old dictionaries, Sanskrit etymological dictionaries, niruktis, then you find there's no instance of the word shrad ever being used in any Sanskrit literature anywhere ever. The word shrad, as the root of the word shraddha, only exists in the word shraddha. So it's almost like they had to say this root exists because they had no other way to figure out the meaning of the word. You follow? It's a word, and so they said this root means this. And they said that thousands of years ago, but there's no other instance in the entire Sanskrit language of the root shrud, meaning heart. Shraddha, where you place your heart, where you place your trust. It's interesting, right? Sometimes you get these, these ancient etymologies. Nobody even knows where the word came from. And usually in like English or whatever, we don't freak out to try to figure out the root of a word. And our languages tend to be kind of young. And so if you can't quite trace the origin of a word and say it's of unknown origin, it's just not that big of a deal. It's just not that big of a deal. If you get a word of unknown origin or of dubious origin, or where there might be multiple possible origins where there's no clean fit, it's just not that big of a deal. But focus. Control yourself. But in an old language like Sanskrit, then they really take this stuff seriously. And it's rare. They exist. You find words that don't quite know what the origin is. Usually there's something. But to find a word and then they say this is the origin and then there's nowhere you can find that origin root, it's unusual. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's unusual. Especially about such an important word, such a common word that shows up in our language. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used the word Shraddha. Shraddha kahe, Shraddha shabde bishwas kahe sudridha nischoy. So the word faith is bishwas, sudridha nischoy. The word faith, Shraddha, means bishwas, conviction. Sudridha, that's very, very strong. Nischoy, that's certain. That's faith. It's strong, certain conviction. This is how you define words. You come up with synonyms, for a word, and then that becomes the definition of the word. So that if you look up in a thesaurus synonyms of a word, and then you look up the definition of the word, usually you'll find that the synonyms of the word are used in the definition. Sometimes with different adjectives to kind of modify and nuance your understanding. You following us? So in many ways, a dictionary is a list of contextually specific synonyms for a word in a way that really helps to communicate the meaning. And in fact, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is offering such a definition here. Conviction is more or less the same as the word faith, but then it's got to be sudridha, real firm, and nischoy, it's got to be real certain. Krishna bhakti hoila sarva karma krita hoy. That where there is Krishna bhakti, in that place, everything that needs to be done has been done. You're successful. So it's interesting because the definition we give of faith, and this isn't what I want to talk about, we're just warming up. The definition of faith in most English usages, faith comes from fide, bona fide, good faith, your qualifications, your bona fides. Fideism, the belief in things by faith, that Wittgenstein talked about. Salvation sola fide, salvation only by faith, was one of Martin Luther's defining features of his Protestant Reformation and the original Lutheran Church. And so faith comes from fide, and we could look up the etymology of it in a dictionary. But normally when you think of faith, we think of a belief that God exists. That's usually when we talk about having faith. Obviously, you can use the word faith, and I have faith that my car is going to make it to the shop. I'm going to make it to the gas station. I got faith. Like, hey, your car's on empty. Yeah, I'm just going to try and make it to where we're going. I'll get gas in the back end. I don't know, Matt. It looks pretty low to me. I got faith. You sure? No, I'm not sure. That's why I say I have faith. But we're not stopping. We're in a rush. We're going to roll those dice. I got faith. So you can use the term faith about anything by the context. But when we talk about faith in a religious context, in that specific context, faith is the generic belief that God exists. Or maybe it's a belief in a particular type of God. I have faith in an all-good, all-powerful God. Not just that God exists, but maybe that God in a particular manifestation exists. I have faith in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. That's not a generic faith in God. That's a faith in a specific revelation, a specific configuration. But the term faith is used to denote a belief system. Oftentimes it's contrasted to reason. Faith and belief on one side, logic and reason on the other. Reason and belief. Logic and faith. What's the opposite of faith? No faith. Okay. But if you weren't going to go that route and just do an actual antonym, what's the opposite of faith? That's true too. It's a good one also. No faith. That's really just a sin. You didn't really I thought you did something, you actually just wasted our time. Because if no faith is the opposite of faith, doubt is synonymous with no faith, and therefore it doesn't get us anywhere. If we're not going the route, what's the opposite of faith? Logic, reason, right? Don't put your faith in that thing. Let's work it out. Let's do the math on it. So certainly the literal opposite of faith is no faith or doubt, no question. But I think most of us think about, they just have faith in it. It means they just believe in it without any good evidence. But if you've got evidence for something, it's no longer faith. It's reasonable. You've got a good reason to believe something. You guys following us? I think that when we talk about faith, we're talking about a belief in God. In English, we're talking about belief in God, or even in Latin, or in any of the Romance languages. We're talking about a belief in God, or a belief in a particular revelation of God. But that's not how the term is used by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says that faith is the belief that just by serving Krishna, you'll become successful in life. Now, if you have faith that just by serving Krishna, you'll be successful in life. And when I say successful, it's important to make it clear what I mean. I don't mean you'll be successful that you'll make a bunch of money. I mean that your life is complete if you just serve Krishna. Where there's Krishna Bhakti, all karmas have been fulfilled, is literally what's said. Where there's Krishna Bhakti, all duties have been fulfilled. All responsibilities have been fulfilled. Your life is complete. Now, let's just say you believe that. So just do the thought experiment with me. Stop listening to class and actually do the thought experiment. You now have decided that you are convinced that if you just serve Krishna, your life is complete. How would your life change? I'm not looking for raised hands. Think about how your life would change. If you had faith that if I can just serve Krishna in this lifetime, my life is a smashing success. I need not achieve anything else. My life is complete. How would that change your life? What would that do to your current value system? I don't know about you guys, but for me, it would be a cataclysmic, colossal, earth-shattering, massive, infinite, tectonic shift in my day-to-day. How about you guys? It's wild, right? Interestingly, belief in God is just assumed. Faith in our tradition isn't belief in God. That's just assumed. You're not even allowed into the arena to compete without that as your entry ticket. You follow? You're like a pashundi or something like that. You're like an animal or something like that, or an atheist, a non-believer. You don't even qualify as a human being. So faith in our tradition, as it's defined in our religious literature, is not belief in a particular revelation. Kind of is. But the revelation is Krishna already exists. You're an eternal soul. You can relate to Krishna through grace. And if you just do that, your life is complete. You needn't do anything else. You are a smashing success. That, of course, gives you fearlessness. Nothing can take that away from you. You found shelter from the storm of life. You're on dry land. You found an oasis. I was blind, but now I see. I was lost, but now I'm found. All that stuff. You follow? It's an aggressive definition of faith. And it is a belief in a particular revelation. The revelation is that grace is sufficient to make your life complete, and you needn't search after anything else to fulfill you. How dogged will you be able to pursue a romantic partner? How doggedly will you be able to pursue a romantic partner? How doggedly will you be able to pursue wealth? Fame. You follow? You won't be able to anymore because you're convinced those things don't matter, and this other thing is everything you need to be complete in life. So it is a belief in a particular revelation, but it's not a belief in a particular revelation like I believe in something. It's this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. It's a functional definition. I'm now going to move. This is my lifestyle. This is my daily fare. You guys see this? It's interesting how our definition of faith, it's similar to some extent that it's a belief in a particular revelation, but it's way more of a functional, almost behavioral definition instead of a cognitive definition. And it's not about the basic belief in a deity, it's about what then your basic belief in your deity that you already are assumed to have then computes into. It's a belief in a way of relating to the deity. It's a belief in the value of that relationship with that deity compared to whatever else you may achieve in life. Anyway, Krishna here makes this point that if you don't have faith in this Dharma, you won't achieve me. Sounds, and you'll come back to this world of birth and death. Sounds a bit Christian, like you'll go to hell, but not really. If Krishna is available, but only if you love him and want to achieve him, and if you don't, you get another roll of the dice. It's not banishing somebody to hell. That's not my way or the highway. There's an opportunity here, and if you don't pursue this opportunity, you're just going to go back to your life. Go back to the law of karma. Keep doing what you're doing. But this opportunity is there. And the opportunity is not just behavioral. You don't just have to do it, but there's a cognitive component that goes with it that motivates your behavior. There's a merging here of faith and works in the definition. In fact, you can judge somebody if they don't spend their time doing Krishna Bhakti and they're all wrapped up in other stuff and they're super spun about other stuff, then you understand they don't really have faith. Gives you a good benchmark, gives you a good litmus test, gives you a good lightning rod to test out your own faith, somebody else's faith. Ashadadhana Purusha. Dharm yasyasya, parantapa, aprapya mam nivartante, mrityu samsara sagarat. If you don't have faith in this Dharma, you don't achieve me, and you come back to this world and roll the dice again. You're not punished for it. You just missed the opportunity. Like if there's an opportunity to invest in some really amazing investment with this massive return on your investment, just huge, colossal gains, and you miss it, then you haven't lost anything. You didn't like skyrocket. You missed it. Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about today. But I found the word interesting, and so I wanted to flesh it out with you guys a little bit. What I want to talk about today was Pascal's wager, Pascal's gambit. Blaise Pascal was a French philosopher. And he came up with this thing, Pascal's gambit, Pascal's wager. And it's kind of a primitive form of game theory and probability theory and decision making. And the formation, he was also a mathematician, and the formation of it was, if you believe in God and God does not exist, you've lost nothing. But if you believe in God and he does exist, you go to heaven. A big return on your investment. Not a huge downside, but a really big upside. In contrast, if you don't believe in God and God doesn't exist, then nothing happens. But if you don't believe in God and God does exist, then you go to hell. Pascal and his community was all Christian, so this is what was on offer. So if you believe in God, it doesn't cost you anything, but you might go to heaven. Big, huge return on your investment. If you don't believe in God, you don't get anything. If you're right, but if you're wrong, then you go to hell forever. And that's a huge downside. Going to hell forever sucks. Like whatever you think sucks, it doesn't suck. You go to hell forever, It's infinitely worse than the worst possible thing you can imagine. You know what I mean? The whole concept of hell is so unworkable, but it's also kind of fascinating. Like, what kind of twisted minds come up with this stuff, you know? Like there's the obelisk. You guys know that one? What's it called again? Like the artificial intelligence comes back and tortures you forever to dissuade people from not creating. What was it? What's it called? The basilisk experiment, right? Yeah, it's like twisted minds come up with this stuff. There's so many flaws in the logic, but it's like a bunch of incels. Way too much time on their hand. Yeah, anyway. Incel means involuntary celibate. It's kind of a online term for people with no girlfriend who sit home and just come up with dumb stuff on their computer all day in their basement while their mom makes them grilled cheese sandwiches. So the basilisk experiment, right? I said obelisk, I got it wrong. But yeah, it's a whole modern day thing that, you know, artificial intelligence comes about, but then it finds the people who would have stopped it from developing and then kills them but they're already dead. So then it makes artificial replicas of them because artificial intelligence exists and then tortures them forever. And the knowledge that will happen then makes people afraid to stop the what do I want to say, the evolution of artificial intelligence. Did I get it right? The basic theory? Yeah. I can't, it's like so idiotic. But anyway. Okay, well, maybe we'll do that after class. But to get back to Pascal's wager, it's a very primitive argument. I don't find it convincing. I don't recommend it. It's not a part of my belief system. I'm not super gung-ho about it. But I did want to use it as a jumping off point for something I thought about yesterday that I wanted to explore. So, Prabhupada did a variation of Pascal's wager. Prabhupada said, we're happy. We dance, we take prasadam, we chant, we're happy. You're a materialist, you're miserable. Whether Krishna is God or not is irrelevant. Our life is better than your life even today. So it's a more aggressive variation of it. Prabhupada was familiar with Pascal's wager. He grew up, he studied Western philosophy, so he had quite an awareness of ideas, and he evolved his own argument from the earlier argument, centuries later, and then shared it with his, with people on occasion. It wasn't a major piece of his line of argumentation. It wasn't a major cornerstone of his faith or anything like that. But he did use it at least on one occasion, and maybe on more than one occasion. I can distinctly recall reading it on one occasion. So, Pascal, you believe in God, you go to heaven. It's amazing. Don't believe, so what? You don't believe in God, no biggie, unless God exists, in which case you go to hell. Prabhupada's argument was a little more this worldly, a little more aggressive. Whether God exists or not is irrelevant. My life is better than yours. You should join us and become one of us because our life is better than your life. Just today. We're eating nice food, we dance, we have great association, we're good people, we got morals, we're happier. Live a life of gratitude, we're happier. Richard Dawkins came up with a variation called the Dawkins wager. That he argues that the odds of God existing are infinitely small, and therefore to say belief or no belief means you're equating those two things as if they're equally probable, but the statistics of the probability of God existing is so small in his mind, and therefore there's no reason to believe in God, and you're better off not believing in God. And so he essentially flips. Anytime you have an argument and the other guy can just flip your argument on its head and make the same argument against your position, it's not a good argument. I don't know that you can quite make the same argument because he doesn't believe in an eternal hell or an eternal heaven, so he can't really promise that. He just believes nothing exists. So he doesn't really have the same thing, but the way he wins the argument is by invoking that that both claims aren't equally weighted. Therefore, it's not a 50-50. It's not like a game theory type situation. You can make a decision based on the likelihood of something existing, and therefore the likelihood of God is existent. Therefore, you should believe in God. And people have been criticizing Pascal's wager for centuries that it doesn't amount to a proof of God. There's no evidence of God's existence, and you shouldn't really be betting with God's existence anyway. It shouldn't be about you either. There's a whole bunch of arguments against it, and I think they all stand. I don't think it's a good argument, but I do like Prabhupada's argument, and I want to run with that a little bit, and that's what I want to do today. And of course, it's linked to this idea of faith. Faith in Christianity sometimes is defined in the Bible as like trust in things unseen. They have kind of sexy ways of defining faith. Trust in things as yet unseen. And so it indicates this sort of like this belief sans evidence. I don't subscribe to that. I think that God is logical and reasonable, and there's great evidence for believing in God. And I also think that if you do practice bhakti, you'll experience divinity. And then at that point, your faith grows very, very strong, and your doubts evaporate. And knowing Krishna becomes like knowing a friend that you have experience of, and you may still try to prove his existence to others, but you no longer doubt his existence yourself. So I don't believe that you could never know. And I think God's also logical. On your way to the experiment, God's also logical and reasonable. But for new devotees, Krishna is largely a theoretical experiment. And faith for new devotees means I'm interested enough in the potential of this, I'm going to give it a shot. And so we can define faith as enough conviction, enough excitement about a given hypothesis that you go and jump in the laboratory and do the experiment, excited to see what the results will be. And faith can coexist with doubt, and you just have to have enough curiosity to get you off your butt into the laboratory doing the experiment. So whatever that amount is. I don't even think it has to be 51. It just has to be enough interest, enough excitement about the possibility that you make a move. What is that, 20, 30, 40%? Whatever it is. And in that sense, Pascal's wages makes a little sense. Hey, I could maybe know one thing and know everything. I could maybe find happiness and peace that isn't just taken away by time. I could maybe find some real shelter from the storm. Maybe there's something beyond this world. I'd like to explore it. It's a gamble. It's a bet. You're not sure. But the possibility is exciting enough that it makes you want to move and grab it. And this is, I call this almost like a revitalized version of Pascal's wager. It doesn't assume that faith is this singular thing that you have or you don't have that's just a decision that's made purely theoretical cognitively, but it's an excitement about a possibility that motivates you to explore it. And then if you merge that a little bit with Prabhupada's argument, his wager, you have to wait till you die for the results. You get the results in this lifetime. And you, as a soul, you have a right to experience divinity in this lifetime, not just after you die. Now this faith starts to sound a lot more like reasonable. Like, okay, yeah, I still got some doubts, but I'm also interested. I'm going to give this a shot. And in fact, all of you are at least in this category. Depending on the maturity of your faith, you may have moved from this to an actual experience of divinity. But all of you, simply by dint of being here on a Saturday night, I mean, I know all of you. There's no stranger in the room. Like one of those nights where I know every single person in the room. So all of you at least have this level of faith. And that's a great place to be. I got doubts, but you know what? I'm curious. I'm interested. This is like part of what I do. I'm excited. I'm going to explore this with my doubts. It's an active faith. You guys following this? That's not what I want to talk about either. What I want to talk about was this. And by the way, we're starting at 7:30 from now on. Just FYI, in case you guys didn't notice. We're on our winter schedule. This happens. Like I get later and later, and then eventually I have to do it's like a daylight savings time type thing. And I fall back. So we just did that. So I got here at 7:30 today. What I want to talk about today was this. I think Krishna consciousness is the greatest idea that exists in the world. I do not think there's a better idea. I think we have the best view on life in existence. Our tradition teaches and has taught for a long time that the goal of life is to love things in a selfless, courageous, vulnerable way, and in a deep way. A way that's so deep that you go beyond the body and you love people for their essence, for their core, beyond even their mind, beyond their body. You love the essence of people, that piece of them that's universal, that piece of them that's forever, that piece of them that's their core. You love so deeply. You conceive of people as being a spirit, a spark of light, beyond male, female, young or old, fat or thin, black or white, American or European. You love the absolute essential core of people, and you strive to love so deeply and so courageously and so vulnerably that you conceive of each person in existence as a soul. You notice how I didn't say they are necessarily a soul. You conceive of people in such an essential way, in such a beautiful way, in such a deep way, that you see everything they are in this world, but you go beyond all of that and you love them for their core. Not ignoring who they are in this world. Moving through it deeper and deeper and deeper. And in fact, you love the universe the same way you love the soul of the universe. What's another name for the soul of the universe? Yeah. Soul of all reality, the essence of all reality, the core of all existence is another name for God. You're just trying to love and realize and experience and understand the absolute core of everything that exists. And that you want to relate to that core and that essence of people in a courageous and vulnerable and selfless way of giving and receiving, of reciprocation, of connection. You spend your life doing that. And then when you die, your meditation as you die is on doing that forever. On loving the soul of all reality so intimately that you embrace him. Dance with him. Play with him. And everybody else forever. And you're going to, not even death can kill your desire to love, which exists in perpetuity and goes beyond this world and carries you to another place. In a land beyond time, where every word is a song and every step's a dance. That's Krishna consciousness. Now, it's like Pascal's wager, because we're saying something exists beyond this world. It's also like Prabhupada's variation, in that we have a better life in this world. It's about God. It's also about everybody else you interact with and the way you look at everybody and the way you look at everything and the kind of person you are and the kind of energy and focus you bring to all aspects of your life. And so the rewards are infinite, even in this world. What better way is there to live than that? Like, what's even a competition for that? Like, it's not even like there's we got three ideas, and I think this one's the best. It's not like a shell game, and I'm like, the rock's in one of these three shells. I don't even think there's anything else on the table. What other idea is there that's even on the table? Honestly, I actually can't think of one. I honestly, sincerely can't think of a better way to live your life. My elders are the best people on the planet. They're the happiest, deepest, most profound, most loving, most thoughtful. They're not like the most intelligent, like in terms of like an IQ or even learning or even like ability to structure a super sexy philosophical argument. But they're the most brilliant in the sense that and some of them are that. But the thing they all have in common is their ability to cut through all the red tape and all the hoopla and all the shallowness and just get to the essence of life and be profound in everything they do. In that sense, they're living proof of the immediate benefits of this worldview. And you get to see Krishna too. You get to experience Krishna too. This is just gets you in the door. This isn't the only argument we have. This is just what gets you to keep doing the experiment long enough for you to have an actual experience of divinity. Which then elevates the game permanently. Like, fundamentally. And so this line of argument is an introductory argument, and it's profound. and it holds water. And it's not even that this is all we have to hold on to through our life. This just gets you to do enough in the laboratory to see something, to experience something. But even separate from that, this argument is, as far as I can see, it's solid. It's beautiful. It's such a poetic and beautiful and comprehensive and complete and elegant and profound, deep and meaningful, integral way of living. And I think in some ways this is what was meant as faith. If I just do this one thing, my whole life's a success. I think this is the kind of feeling that Vaishnavas have had forever. And I think that this is what Mahaprabhu was trying to communicate when he defined faith as this complete conviction, this certain conviction that if I just serve Krishna, if I just have Krishna Bhakti, my life is complete. It's this idea that this is what I'm pursuing in life. This is the value of life. This is like, this gives meaning to life. This is this is my dream. This is my paradigm. This is my worldview. This is my raison d'etre. This is my dharma. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is my cognitive. This is my behavioral. This is my everyday. This is me at my best. This is my Mount Everest. This is enshrined in my heart as my ideal. Selfless love, essential love, ever deepening, always moving forward. Reciprocal love, courageous, vulnerable, always seeking the essence, always seeking the core, always seeking that deepest part of somebody. That most real part of somebody. Not the way they mirror you. Not what's in it for me. You. And then loving everything like that, including the universe, including all of reality, until you eventually get to the core of all reality, which is Krishna. The centrifugal force, the cynosure, the black hole, the personified black hole that draws everything towards itself. Krishna meaning the all-attractive, meaning literally like he attracts you, like Krishi is farming. From Krish, like pulling, plowing, like traction, like a tractor beam, like pulling something towards you, like a tractor which pulls the earth. Krishna's pulling everything towards himself. And we're drawn deeper, deeper, and you come to Krishna, who's that ultimate gravitational principle. Krishna Graha, the planet of Krishna. Graha is a planet, which is something which exerts gravitational pull. Graha means pulling. And so it's pulling you towards itself. Krishna pulls everything towards himself. And to get into that, and you're pulled towards the essence of all reality, which is what all souls have in common. What an ideal. What a theory. What a gambit. What a wager. What an artistic pursuit. What a hobby. What a reason to get up in the morning. You know? We already won. Oh yeah, what do you do? The greatest thing that's ever been conceived of. That's what I'm into. What's your hobby? The greatest idea that's ever existed. This is my own homage to Prabhupada's variation on Pascal's wager, which I think is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was talking about. And what I think the Gita is talking about here. And what the essence of it means to be faithful. an active faith, a powerful faith, a not dead faith. Faith without works is dead, according to James. Your faith has to be active. By works, faith is made perfect. It's an active faith where it moves you. It's powerful. It's functional. And it can coexist with doubt, and it can start today. Just with letting that idea seep in, letting that idea percolate, and letting yourself steep in and marinate in it. Let that idea soak into you. It's kind of idea, we don't normally do this, but philosophical ideas, there are logical arguments for the existence of God. There's like reasons like to believe, you can kind of shock somebody with it. Then there's also these beautiful ideas that you just spend time with, like a friend. You just sit and you think about them. And the act of thinking about them ennobles you and broadens you and deepens you and makes you profound and transforms you. It's like just being in the presence of greatness. It's an osmosis process, and that greatness seeps into you, and all of a sudden you become broad. You become deep. You become profound because you've taken the time to have great ideas and sit with them and meditate on them and think about them. They're like a piece of art. They're like a piece of music. You sit with them, and as you sit with them, their beauty manifests, and it becomes yours, and you become part of it, and it becomes yours, and you own it, and it becomes a way you look at the world. And then you could deeper appreciate the thing you're looking at, and there's less distinction between you and the thing you're looking at because you're more in the mix. And it's like you appreciate music, and all of a sudden you're a musician, and you're playing the music. And you own the music. And what was theirs became yours. We need to spend time with these artistic ideas. In addition to the science of spirituality and solid logical arguments, there's also room to springboard off of that, which I try to do today, into the realm of art, where you ultimately encounter ideas which are singularities, which are gorgeous, which are beautiful and elegant and like incredibly attractive, and they draw your mind in, and they're lovable. And so this idea that I want to pursue the greatest thing. What's the greatest thing? It's courageous and vulnerable, selfless and reciprocal love. Towards what? Towards everything and everyone. Always seeking the essence. Not ignoring the manifestation, but always looking to the deepest part of somebody. Not what they mirror of me. Not what they can do for me. You as your own reality. And then noticing how as you go deeper and deeper and deeper, everything connects, and there's one point of connection of everything, and that is Krishna. And you pursue that in this life, and then that turns into your reality forever. And even if you die and it's all over, who could have argued that you just lived the most wonderful life that could ever be conceived of? But that's not all we got. That's just to get you up in the morning. If you get in the laboratory, you'll have experiences of Krishna, and they will permanently and fundamentally change your game and elevate your game. And you'll make arguments like this, but you'll know Krishna exists. You won't have doubts. You'll know. Okay. Thank you very much, IGTV.